And we're looking live here at Mar-a-Lago, where President Trump will be leaving momentarily amidst all of, the eyes and the folks that are watching his departures. We just saw supporters. Now, meantime, Trump's lawyers are reportedly also going to be considering a venue change for this case. Trump himself posting on Truth Social saying what many also believe, that it is impossible for him to get a fair trial in Manhattan. Bloomberg reporting that his team had been thinking about moving it to Staten Island. But again, they are waiting to see the indictment when it is unsealed. This indictment brought by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. And again, they're waiting to see that first, and then we expect there will be several motions, including one to dismiss as well. So stay with us right here. We're watching Mar-a-Lago. We'll be bringing you play-by-play, really, of Donald Trump as he leaves on this historic day. Hard to imagine that we are here right now, and this is unfolding. A
surreal day. We'd like to welcome in now former Michigan gubernatorial candidate and host of the Tudor Dixon Podcast, Tudor Dixon. Great to have you here in studio with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
The word we were kind of throwing around was surreal. This is a surreal scene to watch, isn't it?
Absolutely. We hear the other side saying that this is not surreal, that we're crazy. They are trying to control the narrative, and yet you see those supporters out there. You see people across the country saying this is outrageous. You even see people who are running against him on the Republican side saying this is outrageous because they see the writing on the wall. If you do this to him, what is the future for any Republican who is running when you have a uniparty that can take a candidate and try to silence them and put them in jail?
The one we were talking about yesterday, Bianca, when we were doing our special coverage, is Jeb Bush coming out calling this for what it is.
That says something.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
It really says something. And even Barney Frank, who was on our broadcast yesterday, said he doesn't believe this case should have been brought. Let's talk about what we will be seeing here. Obviously, Trump is going willingly, but there's been a huge coordination, Secret Service, that have to accompany him. And, the fact he is going through this, and this will be sort of, unprecedented. Tudor, his lawyer says he's hoping the indictment tomorrow will be painless and classy. I guess if you're going to be indicted, those are two adjectives we would hope will be the case. How do you think Trump's arrival will be in New York as he lands in LaGuardia later today? And, we've seen so many supporters here. Do you think that will continue even in New York?
I think so. I think like I said, I think you're even going to see his opponents on the Republican side supporting him, talking about this. They know what this means for Republicans across the country. So we're going to see a lot of people covering this. Obviously, Newsmax is going to be the #1, and I think it's very important that people are actually seeing. We know the president likes to make sure that people see what's actually happening to him. It's happened to family members. It's happened to campaign staff. Now it's directly happening to him. The legal process is coming after him. It's definitely something the entire country should see.
Part of the process that Democrats have to be trying to leverage here is how much time and money it takes for anyone to defend some of these claims against them. We've talked about staffers that have been put through the ringer. Even just to go down and testify before the DOJ, you got to hire a lawyer to do that. I want to talk about, though, what we've learned since the indictment. We have a new poll from McLaughlin & Associates. It shows that 57% of Republican primary voters say they are more likely to vote for Donald Trump since the indictment, 31% less likely. Also, check this out, 73% say they do not think he will get a fair trial in Manhattan. And I think those numbers are probably pretty accurate. I didn't take any scientific polling this weekend, but that reflects what I talked most of the people I talked to.
Well, I think you have to think about this from the standpoint of we're all looking at this. Like I said, a uniparty is coming in, taking over, and throwing the Republicans out. And so people are saying, who is strong enough to go up against it? They've seen Donald Trump go up against this. They've seen him come out publicly. They've seen him make fools of them when they've tried to do this. And honestly, I think people are looking at the other candidates and saying, are they strong enough to withstand this right now? Or does this have to play out and he has to push back? And I think at this moment, we have to see a very strong Donald Trump. And honestly, this is a moment in time where people are scared about what we look like on the world stage. You're seeing people back away from the U.S. dollar at this moment.
Yeah, that was a big report earlier this week. Let's talk a little bit about this report about the gag order. It broke that the judge may actually try to put a gag order on Trump, who's also, let's be clear, a candidate for president here. Your take on that? Obviously, this judge is sort of predisposed not to be super friendly to Trump, as we know he was presiding over the Weisselberg trial and the Trump Organization, Tudor. But that would be pretty incredible, and his lawyers say a violation of his constitutional rights.
Yes, so what I understand is that they are now bringing another attorney with them that is a specialist in the First Amendment to come out and fight this, because think about the consequences here. He's coming back to Mar-a-Lago tomorrow. He's going to speak about this. They want to make sure they can shut down any discussion. Now, they've had total control with the media on their side, the mainstream media. They've had total control with social media. We've seen this with Twitter, the expose of what's actually happening behind the scenes. They are nervous, and so now they're trying to take their corrupt legal system and use it against a former president to say he no longer has First Amendment rights. It's shocking.
And what do you expect to hear from him during this speech tomorrow night? We'll be covering, of course, here in primetime on Newsmax. What do you hope he says? What do you think he needs to say?
I think he needs to point out the fact that this is a Marxist attack, that this is really, as we see Chinese and communist corporations moving into the country, that we're seeing this banana republic in the legal system. And this is happening on the watch of a U.S. president that clearly does not care for rule of law. And so I think it's time for him, and I think what he'll do is come out and say, who is going to stand in the way? I mean, we've heard him say it a million times, but if he cannot prevail through this, where do the rest of us stand? And it really is key. If we see him taken down, what choice what is our future?
Yeah, the concern is what comes next, too. We've talked about what's going on in Georgia. There's constant reporting about what happened the last time the feds went to Mar-a-Lago and found those documents. They seem to be mounting. It almost seems coordinated, and that's what the House Republicans were trying to figure out by calling Alvin Bragg down to answer some questions. Has there been any coordination between the feds and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to work on this, to build these cases, to hamstring Donald Trump as he pursues the presidency again?
Yeah, and it's always hard for someone to go first, right? But now that Bragg has gone first and indicted him, so some people say, was this just the domino? Now we'll see others. But, if we point to the fundraising that has gone on since the indictment broke, $5 million has gone towards Trump. If there is some type of coordination, people don't like it. Americans do not like the look of this. And according to some of the folks in Trump's camp, these are first-time people who are now giving even small donations. That matters. That's really true sentiment.
Absolutely. But when you see the former FBI Director Comey come out and say this has been a good day, don't you have to say, come on, there's got to be some sort of coordination here. They're all cheering this on. And of course, this is going to have the people rise up and donate to him. And I think that's, he knows how to use these things. This is how Donald Trump has prevailed in the past. He'll use it to the best of his ability. And honestly, I think that this will help him. You're already saying the numbers are showing that.
Yeah, I think Comey felt obligated to say something perhaps because he doesn't want to be the next one accused of election interference, even though he certainly had some of that on his resume based on what he said right before Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign and her email server. But again, we do see what appears to be a two-tiered system of justice, Tudor. Something we're going to talk about a little bit later in the program is the rampant crime we see in Manhattan. Right. Violent crime on the rise. And this is what Alvin Bragg is focused on. And I guess to some extent he's obligated to do so because he ran on this very platform, not making New York safe as a whole, but getting Donald Trump.
Right, exactly. And when you go through Manhattan, you see that the streets are cluttered. There's homeless people everywhere, and people are living in fear of constant crime. And so, how can we have this focus? But this is coming from California. This is coming from Chicago. This is coming from New York. However, the soft on crime is not working. Right.
It's coming from George Soros, who backs, and his groups that he supports backs a lot of these candidates. And we see what happens in these cities. We're going to take a short commercial break. We'll keep our eyes on the road and on the gate of Mar-a-Lago.